And we're back here live from Austin, Texas with the World Championship Series for StarCraft 2. As we are just about halfway through the round of 16. We got one more match coming up for you, though don't worry. Some Zerg versus Zerg action. I'm your host, Nathanius, joined on the desk by Fear Dragon and Pig. Fear Dragon, I know you love Zerg versus Zerg, but you're finally not casting one. How are you feeling today? How's your experience at the World Championship Series been?
It's been fantastic. Rapid, as the new caster, has been given all the ZvZs, so I'm feeling great about that. Kind of moving my way on up in the world. Pig managed to get out of that by just saying, I'm a random player now, but I had to work myself a little harder for that.
Yeah, I managed to pull the wool over their eyes nice and early with that one, but it's nice to be back here on the desk. We've got a couple of amazing matches coming up. I like that Nate's letting a bit of his native accent come through as well, you know?
Yeah.
I like to imagine Nate growing up on the ranch, you know, of course.
They don't call it Pennsyltucky for nothing. Just saying. We've had quite a few great matches, of course. This is the fourth best of 5 we'll be getting into out of the round of 16. Another Zerg versus Zerg. I think a lot of people are very excited for this. I assume there's quite a few Scarlett fans in the audience that are excited to see her play. Those cheers in the crowd are probably, I mean, someone probably walked by with like a really cool, funny shirt or something. But Scarlett, of course, and Nerchio, two very popular players and very competitive. We both know these players to be strong in Zerg versus Zerg, but Scarlett can be particularly difficult to handle at these tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lambo said it in that interview before, right? She's got a lot of builds and she's quite tricky. And that's an evolution we didn't see a couple of years ago. Scarlett used to be the kind of toe the line, agreed, defend very well, and you'd always say, no way, she can't hold this attack, and she'd like barely survive while having like 30 more drones than her opponent. You're like, well, I guess she just wins the game now. She's infinitely ahead, and she was so good at defending, but she's added the cheese, the aggression, the weird upgraded Zergling timing attacks, so she's a very dangerous package in this matchup.
Yeah, and just to briefly touch on Nerchio, of course, he's been playing forever. He is one of the most storied players in the European scene for StarCraft, and he has been here in Austin, lost in the finals to Nebel. He was on his way to grabbing 3 championships last year. I think our other funny stat for him was that he's played something like over 7,000 tournament games of StarCraft 2.
It's been around for a while.
Yeah.
You know,
so,
honestly, I would say the past year has maybe been a little bit of a downswing for Nerchio, though. So a lot of eyes are maybe on him for this match to say, hey, look, Nerchio, you made it over here, but you still got to show that you're still the good old Nerchio. You're still King Arthur.
Yeah, let's see if he's got what it takes. We've got Smix up on the stage ready to introduce our next 2 players for Zerg versus Zerg Fest. And I say she's looking mighty fine. That's a nice attire we got there.
Thank you very much, Nathanius. I saw Lambo's pants from that previous interview, and I just felt like I needed to step it up a bit.
The passion.
Do you guys approve? That's all that matters. I am so excited for this next Zerg versus Zerg, as these 2 players are absolute legends at the game. Please welcome up on stage. It is Nerchio and Scarlett.
Cheers coming out, of course, this American crowd seeing Scarlett come up here, the champion of the Intel Extreme Masters in Pyeongchang, competing across the world in GSL, training in Korea, and Nerchio, who has been one of those top players when it comes to European Zergs. The story has more recently been on players like Cyril and Laser, but this is his opportunity now to reestablish himself. Beating Scarlett here would be a huge win. Yeah. And then he's got a match against another European Zerg that he'd probably be a little bit more familiar with in the form of Lambo.
Indeed.
It's kind of funny, right? Because, you know, it's the Zerg versus Zerg gauntlet that they run through in EU, but Nerchio is a player who I find is always interesting because I like to always go into a match look at his kind of attitude towards basically what he's been posting on Twitter more than anything, like after his matches. And obviously Protoss, I think, is the one matchup he always kind of fears and has this kind of hateful relationship towards. Sometimes he struggles in it. But against Zerg, he has these moments where I think he's very focused and on point with it. And there have been some moments where he gets upset by players who you would never expect to take him out, and he does seem very frustrated in it. I think he is getting back into that focus mode right now, where his Zerg vs Zerg has been looking better recently. So I kind of feel like Nerchio goes into this as, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or 3 or 4 months even ago, I would say Scarlett 100% favored here. But now I'm kind of 50-50 between the two of them.
You know, I actually really feel in the 50-50 vibe because they are 16-16 in games played against each other. They are dead even. They're 5-5 in total series. And honestly, I really think that either one of them can end up taking this. Scarlett, especially in ZvZ, I feel like that's also where she ends up hitting a lot of her stride a lot of the time, just because she's played ZvZ so well over the course of many years.
Yeah.
And she's always got Bly, who I think she's rooming with right now for this event. She's got, of course, No Regret on all those cheesy Zerg players to complement that pure macro play that you were talking about before.
Can we talk about that for a second?
I'm afraid we can't, Pig, because the game is ready. I hope you guys are ready to watch Scarlett play against Nerchio. This is the World Championship Series.
Thank you very much, Nathanius and everybody at the desk. I'm in control. He is Rapid. We're going to be commentating this one, Rapid. Are you proud of all the Texas attire going on here?
You know, I really am. I'm glad I was not the only one adorned in that. Thanks to Stu for helping me out there. But we've got a couple of players here in Texas, so let's go ahead and start by introducing them. Down in the bottom right-hand corner of Acid Plant in the blue. Make some noise for Nerchio. And his opponent starting off in the upper left. Let's go ahead and introduce the fearsome Zerg on the other side of the map in the red. This is Team Experts, Scarlett.
Ooh, I like that. Scarlet Fever.
Probably a little bit more attractive as a play on words than it is as actual Scarlet Fever.
You don't want it.
No.
You don't want that. That took a lot of lives.
Well, here to take even more lives, whether they are Zerg lives or every opponent in their way. You know, I gotta say, coming into this, you look at Scarlett, and what is your thought coming through this series?
ZvZ is a little bit more of a tricky one because the amount of kind of diversity and how you can catch your opponent off guard. Obviously, that certainly does exist with the openings, but she has really diversified herself into being a fearsome tournament opponent where she can go very aggressive, very cheesy, a lot like what Pig was talking about at the desk. But she's also a very good macro player, so she kind of has the all-encompassing image. But in the ZvZ matchup, mixing it up a little bit, it can happen. You can get pretty crazy. But Nerchio's made a career off of defending against the crazy and just kind of winning.
That's right, and this time he is going for maybe not the craziest build, but still a little bit risky. 3 hatcheries already out there on the map, and if your opponent's 13-12 against you, you're going to have some problems coming your way.
Yeah, it looks like it's kind of paying off so far. You'll notice that metabolic speed upgrade for both these players about the same. Scarlett hasn't just quite got out on the map just yet. I'm trying to check that mini-map. No, it's just the Overlords for right now, but the third base is going to be confirmed. Or has been? Is the creep showing that yet? I guess not just yet.
No. It's a little bit sneaky, yes.
Did you see it, though?
Did she? Yes.
Did she, though? She did. Okay.
She did. Right there with the longest sight range Overlord I have ever seen that somehow sees that. So both players will have third hatcheries. Obviously, Nerchio is a little bit faster. But here we go.
A little bit of ramping up the lanes, which is not usually what you expect too much from the faster third. But that's kind of the funny thing about that faster third is a lot of times you go, well, one of the ways I'm going to capitalize off is the production, of course. But if you face aggression and have that faster third, your aggression is going to be more powerful. Or I guess if you can preemptively just be the aggressor, then maybe that too is stronger.
I mean, that's what Nerchio is going to do. Unfortunately, he's going to be piling on this aggression while being supply blocked from losing that Overlord. So that is really going to hurt if he just wants to power straight on through. Even building another Overlord only gets him back to even at 42-42, and he's running against an opponent with more units.
Yep, and Nerchio does see that Roach Horn, so he knows that his attack is kind of on the clock. Gonna go for the wraparound right here. The 3 Queens anchoring pretty well, trying to focus down the Banelings. Oh, but a massive connection gets a lot of the Zerglings, and now Nerchio's got free reign of the space.
Oh, and almost all these drones, if not all of them, are gonna die. GG, Nerchio! The Baneling hit of doom comes through and gives him an almost instantaneous win over Scarlett.
Very well done. We were kind of talking about the different openings you can have there. You were talking about the risk of opening up 3 hatch, but I guess if you get kind of past the little bit of dice roll with openings and just have that bigger production, big connection, all of a sudden you're going to find yourself winning that early game. And it's a good one to do in this best of 5 to throw Scarlett off, because she's the one that usually wants to kind of mix it up, but if she's fallen behind like that, her ability to do that is a little bit diminished.
Yeah, if Nerchio wanted to create a cryptocurrency, you could call it Big Connect.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were certainly one of those right at the end. Really sealed the deal. You could see Scarlett as soon as that Bailey hit. It was like, okay, done with game number 1. And, you know, I feel like maybe we're having a similar series to our previous one. Game 1 lasts about 3 minutes, then we get right into some macro games after that, or at least I hope so.
Yeah,
Otherwise, we're going to be sitting here for like 10 seconds.
Well, you know, Rapid, for me, it's I can pack a lot of fun into 10 seconds. You know, you can spread out over more time, but sometimes what you do with 10 seconds can really electrify people.
Absolutely. A crowd right here clearly electrified at our series at hand. Only Smix is allowed to electrify the crowd, apparently. But let's go ahead and get ready for our next series here. You can see Scarlett definitely maybe reeling a little bit, but she still has that Lambo-esque smile when you die in 3 minutes. Sometimes all you can do is kind of laugh and move on.
Oh, yeah. Especially those kind of games where just kind of a build order caught you off guard. It's really good not to dwell on that and to just get past it and move on. That happens. It's one of the nice things about a best of 5, too, and a best of 3 that can kind of tilt you because you really don't have any games to give almost at all. That one game can be the deciding factor. In a best of 5, of course, every game does count, but it's a little bit more forgiving. She's got 2 more maps to lose before she's out of this thing, and that's a lot to take off of Scarlett.
Without further ado, let's move into our next map, hopping into a Dream Catcher in the bottom right in the blue. Make some noise for Scarlett. Scarlett, of course, champion of IEM Pyeongchang, has racked up an incredible amount of prize money recently, but here to do it again. See if she can do it against her opponent in the red in the upper left. Make some noise for Nerchio.
Nerchio kind of looks like that guy that when you call for somebody to fix your cable, Nerchio's the guy that shows up.
Is he gonna have Red Bull sponsored overalls that he comes in there? He opens his Red Bull toolbox.
Absolutely. He could use that for sure. And we're gonna have to see where these guys go in this match. It was a little bit more macro focused, and of course, it was Nerchio that rudely interrupted that macro dream the two of them had. And went into aggression. You can kind of see in that production tab, both players thinking aggression this game for sure.
Yeah, you might notice that there are Zerglings in production before Nerchio's spawning pool has finished. That is a little bit fast. So
it's fast, but it's not good. I mean, Nerchio is going to have the later spawning pool, but in this situation, as long as he makes the queen and starts up some lings here, you want to be the defender in this situation. It's trying to catch someone going for that 3 hatch opening with an opening like this from Scarlett. She's even making the Bailiness behind this. She's all in on this.
Yeah, this is absolutely going for, what do we call it? Dedicated aggression. But this is ultra, super, mega dedicated. And so wisely enough on the other side, Nerchio is going to throw down a spine crawler. He's making the queen, and he is really kind of battening down the hatches.
Battening down the hatches.
That's what you do with hatches in Control.
Would you believe it if it's actually buttoning down the hatches?
I'm almost positive it's battening them down.
I want you to keep it battening.
Okay.
I like that you think that that's a thing. And now the little dance is going back and forth, just really trying to preserve the life of that second hatchery. If additional queens come out, it's going to be lights out for Scarlett. She's already very sad to see Lings here right now. That is not what she was hoping for, excuse me. But now, with Bailings coming in, a big connection, that kind of Bitcoin currency you were talking about, it could be the winning recipe here.
Yeah, it certainly could be. Here's the one Bailing that could definitely turn everything around. Now, notably, this time, Nerchio is not mining from the base that is under attack, but still, oh my god. The Bailing does get sniped, and a spine and a queen on a ramp. That's going to take a lot of Zerglings to pile through.
Yeah, they're beginning to work again on that hatchery, but all this time, another queen is about to pop out. Scarlett has started her own second hatchery, so she's not necessarily completely all in on this. And if you notice, supply-wise, they're similar-ish. It's still Nerchio favorite, I would say.
Not the greatest Bailing detonation in there, so it's not going to work out for Scarlett. She does turn back around and is droning behind this, has an expansion on the way, but that hold for Nerchio puts him in a great spot.
might be battening, by the way. I've been obsessing over it.
Fairly certain it is. If you guys have any opinions, you can
tweet it at Rapid, not me.
Oh, okay.
Rapid's got that Twitter that is so responsive.
Yeah,
so
it is at Rapid Casting if you want to know where to go.
Do that. So it looks like they might be evening out here. I think Scarlett has kind of decided she cannot get up there. That being said, though, again, if you kind of do the check down there, sure. Workers slightly behind, Army slightly behind. The Army count's not nearly as relevant because as long as they're within the same boundaries and the same kind of units, they're going to be okay-ish. But the supply count in the workers is where you really want to look. You'll notice they're fairly even. So Scarlett does enough to kind of even it up. Of course, you still like Nerchio's position more, but not so much so that you're really worried for Scarlett to win this game, I think.
Yeah, there's no like massive tech discrepancy like you were saying. So realistically, as Scarlett's painful Zerglings are finding out, there's not a whole lot to accomplish right now. They can get maybe some vision out on the map and make sure nothing super funky is going on, but we're going to need to take some time to see what the direction these players want to go.
Yeah, she's just poking and prying to make sure there's not an additional 30 Zerglings up there, because you do kind of have to keep your eye on that seesaw of production that ZvZ does feature, where if you get a little bit too far ahead in workers and your opponent went into early roaches or more lings and banelings, you can be in a lot of trouble that way. But Scarlett getting that information. Both players are going to go for the Evo chamber here now as well. And that'll be kind of telling to see. A lot of players have been going for more carapace because it kind of helps at this stage, but then also later. It doesn't really commit you in one direction or another.
Right. I mean, carapace is just always going to be solid. So, well, I guess, yeah, it would be because the liquid carapace.
Literally solid.
Unfortunately, less effective, yeah.
I like where you're going with that. Now, it is going to be the faster third hatch here from Scarlett, and that was just at the same time as Nerchio powering up some Zerglings, but that is the ZvZ way. Both players are kind of seesawing back and forth here. And Nerchio's going to try to go for the cancel in that third hatch.
He's going to get it, too. Unless Scarlett wants to pull the trigger right now. I guess one Baneling might be enough, but he's going to kill it, or at least force the cancel. Faster. He also, with that Zergling speed, avoids the Baneling that was coming up. It's a great trade on the other ones, and this is actually really cool. I love that Nerchio is forcing the issue and continuing to delay Scarlett's third.
And both players kind of get their hatcheries down and started at about the same time. Now, we were talking about carapace, and you can see the difference here. Scarlett is going to go for that carapace upgrade, but on the flip side, Nerchio is going to go for range attack. So, of course, that enables roaches, hydras eventually, if you get to that point, or lurkers to just be more powerful that way. Whereas carapace, a little bit more expensive, takes longer to upgrade, but is... Whoa!
And boom goes the dynamite, or the Baneling in that situation. It turns out when you run your entire army into a Baneling and it all dies, apparently that is how the cookie, as they say, crumbles.
Rapid, your ability to talk at any moment in time is coming in key here, because I am a little bit speechless. Like, yeah, losing a bunch of Zerg. So I wish we could rewind it back to really analyze this, because in the past, I've been too judgmental, and it's a little bit too harsh on the players, but I do want to kind of put forth the idea here that there's some kind of mental deterioration going on, because I didn't feel like that was GG.
So one player more than maybe a whole lot of others. Scarlett is a player that as soon as she understands that the game is over, taps out instantly. And I've had this conversation with her and the rest of the people over in the training house, the Unity house out in South Korea. It's like, why do pro players leave games so quickly? Don't they know they need to stay in the game for the fans? And they all look at me and they're like, yeah, but the game's over. And I'm like, is it though? Is it though? And they say yes.
I don't agree with what you just said almost at all. I'm not staying in the game for the fans is not what I would argue at all. It's you're in a single elimination best of 5 situation. You lost 10, 12 Zerglings, which is certainly terrible and really bad. But unless, and this is why I said I wish we could have rewound, because unless there was like a wave of roaches coming out behind that, or 30 more Zerglings, and she was certainly going to lose her third. The game being over at that point in time is quite
questionable.
It's not even questionable. It's a very severe interpretation of what happened. It's like, you have your own Baneling. She had her own Baneling. She didn't lose everything. I don't know. I'm not going to dwell on it too much because it is neither here nor there, but it's unfortunate to see because we're starving for good games and close matchups here, and right now Scarlett is just kind of gifting this round over to Nerchio.
I feel like maybe one reaction there is a little bit of tilt going on. You lose everything into a giant Baneling hit, and you're like, oh, come on. And then you just tap out and you want to go to the next game. But you know that you can only use that solution so many times, right? And now Scarlett's back is up against the wall, and Nerchio's just chilling there. He defends against the aggression early on. He gets that nice Baneling hit and knows that he has, at least it appears to be, a mental advantage over Scarlett.
And with that, I do agree. I think it was almost purely just a mental advantage. You're right, she did go for some kind of pseudo all-in, but kind of what we were talking about, yes, her third got canceled, but in it being canceled, it went down actually at the same time as Nerchio. So it's a little bit very interesting. I'll leave it to you guys out there to talk about because we got to move on. We're going into game number 3 here now on Darkness Sanctuary. It's going to be cross positions on a much larger map. So hopefully we get to see these players kind of show everything they got.
I mean, they're going to have the opportunity to. So let's go ahead and introduce our players, starting in the upper right-hand corner in the blue for Team Expert. It's Scarlett. And her opponent in the bottom left-hand corner in the red from Europe. This is Nerchio.
And Nerchio 1 game away from making that top 8 at WCS Austin, which would be a great way of grabbing some points. And a lot of the time, the players, or not the players, excuse me, the analysts at the desk were talking about how, you know, Nerchio, who is this guy? Is he the top 3 non-Korean player that was so dominant in years past? Or is he that guy that's just kind of still pretty darn good, but maybe not a threat to win the thing? Well, up 2-0 in quick fashion against Scarlett, who's one of the latest hotnesses. Yeah, it's a pretty good statement.
I agree. That is a fantastic statement, Angel. Before the era of Titans like Cyril, or even for a while a Laser, I mean, Nerchio was just the guy, right? And then you started to say, okay, who is the best Polish Zerg player? Is it Nerchio or is it a Laser? And then you mix Cyril in there and he just kind of starts smashing everybody this year, last year. He's just amazing. And Nerchio, it feels like, while he had his time in the sun, I don't want to say has fallen off, but he definitely has a lot more competition now, even some in Scarlet. And I feel like games like this really start to turn the conversation the other way. Say, Nerchio, man, he's going all the way to the top.
Yeah, possibly. It is just 1 best of 5 in a tournament, so I don't think we necessarily write off the entire year just yet, but it definitely becomes the foothold in that statement where if this is just the beginning and Nerchio becomes a 2-time WCS champion this year or something, we look back at moments like this and say, well, this is where it kind of began. But we'll have to see. That's the nice thing about the WCS circuit is it's an ongoing story. No one defeat or no one victory is the big message, the only thing we hear about these guys. And there's so much more to be said. So I'm excited. But game-wise, we're seeing a very normal opening. It is going to be that Baneling Nest again for Nerchio a little bit earlier. Now, that can be defensive or offensive. We'll have to see if there's a large groundswell of Lings coming out. That kind of indicates that he wants to go for some blood here, if he does.
Yeah, I mean, at least we don't see such a giant contrast here as we did in the previous game with just like crazy ultra all in. I mean, it's still going to be a lot of early gas invested in speed and the Baneling Nest coming out of Nerchio. So I'm just, my eyes are glued, not to the mini-map, but to the production tab.
Me too. Not a bad place to be looking right now in his ZvZ because he can just swing so fast, right? It can be drone, 30 Zerglings, and then it just changes very fast. But it's just going to be that slightly slower third hatch. Some drones coming out for both players. Now, that kind of makes sense, right? On Darkness Sanctuary, you talk about ZvZ where one player will skip out a couple of drones, but then the other one's going Lings. It kind of seesaws back and forth. On a large map like this, if you miscalculate one direction or the other, it really punishes you because you can sneak out a few extra drones because you just have that little extra time to get more production out. And if one player goes too far in one direction, then it just kind of compounds on that issue. So players tend to equalize in the direction of more of a passive style. You're going to see more layer tech and maybe, dare I say it, even hive tech in a ZvZ, but certainly more mid-game, I guess.
Right. We are starting to get a little bit towards that mid-game, seeing each player's next sort of decisions that they're making. Lair coming out of Nerchio right here, the Baneling Nest and +1 Carapace just about to complete here, or just started actually, for Scarlett on the other side. And now we're not the only ones to see that. Nerchio sneaks a couple of Lings in and checks out the main. It sees that there's no Lair either there or the natural.
Yeah, gets some pretty fantastic information. Also doesn't see something like an additional 20 Lings coming out or whatever, so Nerchio's going to feel pretty confident. Both players are going to anchor themselves with that Baneling Nest as Scarlett is a little bit later. But you do want to have that because, again, those Ling attacks can come at pretty much any time in the first 5-6 minutes, sometimes even beyond that if you're especially crazy. But for the most part, both players pretty happy with this. There's the 12 Lings coming out from Nerchio, so keep your eye on that a little bit. And sometimes what's funny about the Ling attacks, too, is you're like, this doesn't feel like a really good time for that. And then that's precisely when it is a good time for that because the other player's not expecting it.
Mind games.
Mind games, man.
Indeed. So the Lings obviously pop out at just about the perfect time there for Nerchio to defend. Also, he didn't have workers at his third, so even that's a little bit safe.
Yeah.
But while he did tech up faster to that lair and get his Spire on the way, I mean, look at Scarlett. She is just macroing up non-stop. Fourth base on the way.
Yeah, both these players just kind of dancing at that knife's edge, right? Like, it is going to be Nerchio with the Spire here, but Scarlett actually builds the Banelings right in front of Nerchio, and just now is having more Lings come out. So for a second, I was thinking she's just trying to broadcast aggression, but while not really actually committing to that, but she kind of is. Here comes 22 more Zerglings on top of this.
Definitely is. If I were Nerchio, I wouldn't even build Spire units. I'd just build only Banelings.
Yeah.
Because then all you need is one good connection and GG insta-win. But this time around, all he has to do is hold on against massive Zergling Baneling aggression until those mutas pop out.
Carapace upgrade has been finished, as our observer just pointed out, which means that a Baneling connection is not going to actually kill all the Zerglings. Very nice here. And here we go. 4 Banelings do get a connection, though, from a single Baneling, which weakens all of them as a bunch. But there's just so much Scarlett here. She gets the full surround. Baneling's about to pop out for Nerchio.
Yeah.
They're going to have to turn the tide here because it's not been going well. 4 for 4. Okay.
I mean, that's bad for Scarlett, right? The home field advantage, the reinforcements are right there for Nerchio.
Yeah.
So if you trade equally, you got to pull back. You have to morph more Banelings. All of that takes time, which Scarlett can't afford because now there's going to be mutas on the way eventually. Thankfully, Nerchio didn't commit to building them just yet, so he can hang on and stay alive. But I mean, both players just slugging it out with these Lings and Banes.
Lot later lair for Scarlett, but a much faster fourth base. And she's going to go ahead and jump on top of this third base, which is, as of right now, is woefully under-defended. Nerchio tried to catch her breath for a second. Scarlett's not going to give it to him. Now here comes the march to the Banelings. They go in there as well, trying to get on top of the Queen. But the third hatch could die. Now, mutas are good, but if you don't have the production to make it worthwhile, that's bad. But here's the counterattack. And oh my God,
everything
the
explodes. I mean, this is just going to be the death knell for Scarlett over and over again. The Zergling counter for Nerchio is just insane.
Wow.
It's getting so much damage done. It kills the Lings, it kills the drones, and even the returning forces coming back home for Scarlett are not going to be enough to stop massive damage from being done.
And you know what? That hatchery on Nerchio's side never actually went down either, and Scarlett's going to lose that hatchery. I mean, it's on its last leg, so maybe it still dies, but for now, it's producing stuff. And supplies have equalized, whereas Scarlett was way ahead, but now Nerchio has a 11-worker lead and is right there with Army. No mutas showed up just yet, and of course, as I say, that 3 get queued up.
Well done, Jeff.
Yep.
Well done.
Caster Curse is alive.
And well. Maybe not for Scarlett. She is not looking alive and well. Finally, we'll get the kill there on that very low health hatchery. But even just that staying up seconds longer gives extra mining time, extra economy for Nerchio, while he had just finished taking out a bunch of Scarlet. So I don't know, Jeff. This is going to be a desperate effort for Scarlett to try to come back across the base and get damage done, while she once again takes damage from Nerchio's counterattack.
She's losing so many workers, and I think actually in all of this, by the way, she has not seen the Spire or the mutas. There's no spore crawlers. The Queen count has been low from just losing all of it. She's just relying on her aggression, but now the mutas come out there, at worst going to get map control, but at best could just go win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I almost expected Scarlett to just tap out right there. It seems like that was kind of the MO. Nerchio bunkering down, doing whatever he does to the hatches just to try to hold on for now.
I think you got it. I think it's... We'll find out afterwards, but so many Banelings here. And now they have speed, actually, which is a huge new issue. Chasing down a lot of these Lings. Scarlett only has these Lings. The mutas have gone across the map. She has to do so much damage. Just now the late Spore Crawler, but it is being occupied by the Queen. She's getting good damage down on this third hatch. Nerchio not managing this as well as he possibly could have, maybe. And he could end up losing. He doesn't cancel it, loses that hatchery. So if Scarlett had a chance to kind of bring it back, it would be with that. Muta's searching for some kind of damage here.
Yeah, they are looking for the expansion, realizing, hey, there's no fourth. It is just these 3 bases for Scarlett. She has defended back at home with some spores and stuff, but I mean, even that is just not going to be enough. A couple of Banelings actually do finish morphing 3, in fact, and I mean, with the mutas ravaging the left-hand side and the Banelings coming into the right, this just might do it.
Yeah, Nerchio taking a pretty large supply lead. He was actually really hesitant to go into that natural because he just assumed there had to have been a Spore Crawler there, but it turns out there only just now is, and the muta's getting some damage there for themselves as well. Scarlett up in workers, but behind an Army as these players continue to seesaw. Nerchio is remaking that third base. I'm loving this Baneling speed, by the way. I don't think I've seen that in a lot of Mutaling kind of Baneling interactions, but both players really focusing on Ling Baneling.
Yeah, even with mutas out, Ling Bling still is what will decide. If your mutas are on one side of the map and Lings run into your base, you still lose. So on the other side, it's actually going to be an infestation pit for Scarlett. She's going to leapfrog this Mutatech and head right up to Hive, or even just Infestors.
Yeah, she's going to try, but it's all about this third base. A lot of queens there now. Still the one Spore Crawler. One queen gets picked off almost immediately. The queen count is really, really high, actually. Ling run by attempted, but it's not going to secure much here.
Oh, no. All of those Overlords are going to die. Scarlett won't be able to build units for centuries. Transfuses to save them from the low ground from the Queens, but that means the Queens are not there to defend the third base, or the National, rather, and everything there could just die. Excellent Muta control there by Nerchio, and he's even able to defend back at home.
Supply widening in favor of Nerchio. He's got enough mutas that he can actually challenge one of those Spore Crawlers if he wants to. It's really just the queens and their transfusions and their little bit of damage that's kind of holding them at bay. Scarlett trying to find some aggression of her own, but Nerchio's been really good about leaving behind a huge cluster of Banelings. And now we do have Infestors coming out, but keep in mind, they no longer freeze units in place. They just kind of slow them down. So they're good, they're okay, but by themselves are not really a full answer to mutas, I feel.
Right, there needs to be a follow-up unit. So you either need to have a bunch of queens underneath or some form of area of effect, like maybe parasitic bomb much later on, of course. So I get the idea for the Infestors, right? Okay, there it is. But now you just kill the Infestors, right?
Yeah, and they're doing stuff.
Oh, wow, those chains.
If you can chain it
together.
together.
Oh, my God, Scarlett! Can you do it? The Spore on the ground, the Queens as well!
Not bad. Not bad. And that gives pause. All of a sudden, Nerchio's like, well, wait a second. I stayed there a little bit too long. And now the Ling Baneling's going to come in here. They got speed. They're looking for some connections. It's a lot of Queens, and the Infestors are right there as well. The Banelings are going to go for the economy, though. Jumping on that mineral line, and they're making some pretty decent connections, but the drone count's not that low.
The fungal on the Lings. All right, been a cool minute since I've seen that one. Yeah. But I mean, the fungals are the saving grace for Scarlett. She is able to hang on against the Muta disadvantage. And I mean, those Infestors are reusable energy sources. You get that back over time. So all of a sudden, I mean, that's a lot of Queens and Infestors. This might turn the tide.
It might. It's good defensively, but here's what I'm looking at. And like you earlier, I'm staring at the production tab. Is it going to be a Nidus? Because these queens can't just walk across the map. And I don't see Scarlett going for Hydra, but if she also just stays back and defends, I mean, that certainly is a strategy, but I feel like it leaves Nerchio able to then get back into the game with his own Hive tech.
Oh, no.
So I don't know. Is it going to be a Nidus?
This might actually just be really bad. If this fourth goes down, and it does, Scarlett is actually mined out all the way in her main and only half minerals at the natural, I believe. Actually almost mined out at the natural. So both players are really sort of fighting another battle at the same time where they might just run out of money.
Maybe. We do see the Hydra Den coming in for Nerchio, so that gives me a little bit of pause. I mean, perhaps Lurkers as we go in that route. Both players are hitting Hive Tech, so these Zerglings, which have been the main attack force of this game, will hold that thought. The Muta's actually just wandered into everything. Now, I said Scarlett could not walk across the map. Scarlett, always one to rise to the challenges, like, watch me, here she comes. No Nidus at all, but Nerchio sees this attack coming. I just don't know what he can do, Rapid.
I'm going to watch this Baneling counterattack force another instant GG. Going to keep an eye on that, but also a huge swell of Lings, Banelings, and of course those now burrowed Infestors. The Banelings running forward. Can they get the connections they
don't
need?
see it. Oh, but she bought burrows.
14, 15, 16 drones on the other side. This is crazy damage from Nerchio on the backside, but he needs to not die to that push at the same time.
It is the death push. Scarlett coming in. She's down 0-2. Needs to win with this attack. In this time, though, Nerchio has gained an army supply and has amassed a bunch of roaches. It just takes so long for these queens to get over here. Are the Infestors and Queens going to be enough? I just don't see it, Rapid. There's a lot of roaches here all of a sudden.
They are the Queens of the Zerg in control, but they might not be for much longer. Explosions and fungals like that, though, mean that Scarlett all of a sudden just crushes through Nerchio's army. He's got the home field reinforcement advantage, and those Infestors don't have infinite energy. The Queens seem like they do, though, but they're very slow to move.
And Scarlett just reinforcing with more Lings and more Infestors, and to your point, I become worried if your ability to kind of AoE down those roaches diminishes, Queens just chucking their little spikes and lings against roaches. That's not the best army comp to deal with this. But Nerchio, if he gets a little bit too overeager, could lose the fight. We're going to have it right here, though. Defensive Terrans are being thrown forward. Nerchio achieving a pretty big concave. A lot of units in here. Here come the Corrosive Biles, and it might just not be enough. Scarlett gets 3-0'd by Nerchio.
GG, what a final game. So back and forth, and Scarlett just clawing her way back from a very difficult position to almost take it there in the end, but you just have to give it to Nerchio. Not only does he keep it 300, calm, cool, and collected through everything, he does close it out there, and of course, great sportsmanship as well. A dominant victory for our Polish Zerg.
Yeah, certainly on paper and even in the gameplay. A really nice game 3 there. I have to agree with you. It was a very good, close and back and forth match, but I want to hear it from the horse's mouth. Sue on stage with Nerchio.
Thank you very much, In Control. Congratulations, Nerchio. You secured top 8 at Leipzig and now top 8 here in Austin as well, especially to do so against a tough opponent like Scarlett. What are you feeling right now?
Yeah, well, I knew Scarlett would be a very tough opponent because our previous matches didn't go so well for me. But, well, I came early morning today to practice, warm up, and, well, it paid off.
And speaking of earlier matches or previous matches that you've recently had, the last time you played each other was at WESG, where she took you down 3-1. So what was different this time?
Well, it's ZvZ, to be honest. One time you win, one time you lose. Well, this time I think I predicted really well what she was gonna do. And at WSG, I wasn't really sure what actually I should play in ZvZ. And well, the first 2 games, build orders went exactly my way, so it really helped me to secure the match.
Yeah, the first 2 games did seem very solid from your side, but it was Darkness Sanctuary that looked like it might even go her way after she got those sick fungals. So when that happened, what went through your mind?
Well, I knew I was ahead after early game, but I didn't really play that well. She really came back to the game, and then I think she could have won. But in the end, going roaches was really risky by me, because if she just stayed in her base instead of going across the map and went into ultras, I think I would lose the game. But well, again, it's ZvZ.
And speaking of ZvZ, now in the round of 8, you're going to be playing another Zerg player. It's Lambo. And you've played Lambo quite a few times over the past 3 years. In fact, the win record is an outstanding 15-1 in your favor. So because of that, are you feeling pretty confident headed into this?
Well, I am confident, but Lambo is one of those guys that is really improving lately. So I'm not going to underestimate him, because I never do against my opponents. So I think I should win, but we'll see.
All right, sounds great. Congratulations again. Best of luck in that quarterfinal match. Nathaniel, let's head back to you.
Thank you very much, Smix. Nerchio defeating the Canadian hope in this tournament in Scarlett. She made some good plays towards the end of that Darkness Sanctuary game, but just could not hold it together, Pig.
Yeah, Nerchio, they're looking so good. I can tell you, it is scary to defend against mass Zerglings, but he did not pull any punches. He made so many defensive Banelings. He played so carefully, and that's what you got to do. When you're on a map that huge and there's that many upgraded Zerglings trying to get in your base, Nerchio locked down the doors, he battened the hatches and weathered the storm.
Europe is looking really strong right now. I mean, you look at it, we have Scarlett who's been knocked out. We have True who's been knocked out by Lambo. We had Kelazor get knocked out by Serral. Europe is just starting to dominate even in that round of 16 and securing themselves spots in the round of 8.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the bracket. The first half of our quarterfinals for tomorrow have been set. Serral and Hero Marine, as well as Lambo and Nerchio. Of course, there are still some hopes. We've got Special coming in the second half of the bracket with Neeb, as that will be our next series. But yeah, the European players feeling very strong. Expected results, gentlemen, from this top half. Are we surprised?
I think it's cool to see Lambo kind of get through to that top 8. He said before, you know, Austin's his city. He got his first top 16 finally last year here. Now he's top 8. So I think Lambo wasn't someone we particularly had our eye on. We were like, you know, he's been training in Korea. Let's see what he can do. But, you know, that's cool to see a new player crack in the top 8.
All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. We are going to go to a short break. When we come back, we're going to have a special guest or two to talk to here at the World Championship Series. We're going to have a little chat with MC and MMA. We'll be right back.